Podcasting can be such a lonely form of content, especially if you're someone who is creating a lot of solo episodes. So it's very difficult to sometimes get inspired and get excited about what it is that you're creating. And one of the things that we found is that most people usually have one of four goals with their podcast, and one of those goals tends to be engagement. So that means that you want your audience to engage with your content in some type of way. But how do you know if your podcast content is engaging enough? That's what we're going to talk about today. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Successful Podcasting Unlocked. I'm your host, Alicia Galati. I'm the founder of Galati Media, a full-service podcast management agency where we help business owners launch and maintain strategic podcasts. Today's question is, how do I know if my podcast is engaging? The first thing that you're going to want to consider is, what is engagement? It doesn't mean more listeners, though that can be a really great side product of engaging audiences. It doesn't always mean that you're going to have an increase in download numbers, or maybe you're going to hit and rank on those podcast charts. What it actually means is that your audience is engaging and interacting with your content. What does engaging content actually sound like? This is a little more difficult to determine because every podcast is so different. It's like comparing apples to oranges, or saying that one podcast is more engaging because it's a true crime podcast, whereas another one that's on breathwork is not as engaging because maybe to you that is a less viable or enjoyable or engaging topic. It really depends on, is that podcast engaging for that audience? Some things you're going to want to consider as you are deciding on if your podcast is engaging enough is, what are those actions that your audience is taking during or after listening to your episodes. And we'll be able to go through a few of these goals as well as some ways to achieve better engagement with your audience in a bit. I want you to consider that an engaging podcast and engaging content is one that allows your audience to change their mind about a certain topic, or to engage their mind on the topic that you're discussing. So in this case, maybe podcasting isn't a topic that some people would find interesting or engaging. But my goal with this show is to get you, my dear sweet listeners and viewers, to take the information that I'm giving you to move your show from where it is now to what you view success to be. I want you to send me a DM and to ask me questions, to engage with me outside of this platform. I also want you to listen through to the whole episode without you dropping off at the middle because maybe I threw an ad in there or something. These are things that I can do to encourage engagement, and these are things that you can do as well. So let's go through some ideas of how to create some goals around engaging your audience. Now, if you would like your audience to grow, then maybe engagement isn't really the thing that you should be focusing on right now. Maybe you should be focusing on getting in front of new audiences, asking your listeners to share the episodes, and things like that. Those are things that should be your focus rather than the things that we're talking about here. But if your focus is to create a more engaging podcast, you want to grow your community, you want to increase the interactions that your listeners are having with you, with each other, with the episodes, then this is where you're going to want to focus. Here are 3 examples of audience engagement goals. Maybe you would like to increase your audience engagement over the next 6 months in a way that allows your listeners to have a better completion rate of your episodes. So maybe you right now have an average of 60 to 75% of your episodes are being fully completed by listeners. This is actually average that we've seen over all of the podcasts that we have managed. A 60 to 75% completion rate is normal. So maybe you would like to increase that to 80%. What are some things that you're going to need to do in order to achieve that? Maybe you need to go to the front part of your episode and take out some of the things that you're saying in your episode setup or in your introduction of the topic that is not getting your audience to listen to the full episode. Perhaps you have a mid-roll that is distracting or is not relevant to your audience. Maybe that needs to be taken out. If you're running ads within the first 5 minutes of your podcasts, especially if they are on the shorter side, then most likely your audience is skipping through those, or they are simply saying, this show is not for me. We don't want any of those things to happen. So in order to increase the engagement of your audience with your podcast, you're going to want to address each of those different things to achieve that goal. Another goal could be that you want to double the number of reviews, ratings, or follows that you have on each of the platforms, the podcast listening apps, that allow that. So in order to do that, you're going to need to encourage your audience to leave a rating, leave a review, and maybe you want to run a giveaway in order to achieve that goal. You want to give away something that is either a book or some free time with you, a strategy session. Maybe there's a bundle that you can give away in order to encourage people to take that extra step to do that. We have a client that does this really well. She will actually go in every month and look at new reviews, and she will pull a name and say, this is the review and this is the winner for our membership. So every month she is getting tons of people who want to be able to get access to this membership for free. And they just get a month, or I believe it is 1 or 3 months free. And that allows them to get a taste of her paid membership, but also allows them to get something for their review. Perhaps another goal that you could have around increasing the engagement of your audience is that you would like 10% of your listeners to reach out to you and send you a DM. This is something where you're going to have to encourage your audience throughout the episode and at the end to take that extra step to send you a message and make it worth their time. Maybe you want to say, hey, if you send me a message or if you send me a DM, I will send you a free checklist. That's actually a really good idea, and I think I might take that for myself. Or anyone who sends in a question for the Successful Podcasting Unlocked gets access to a checklist that will not be available anywhere else. There you go. That is a very quick and easy way to get my audience, my listeners, my viewers to engage with my content in a way that is great for me because it shows that engagement. It shows that I'm achieving my goals of moving my podcast listeners to interact with me in some way within the episode or after the episode. And they're getting something that they cannot get anywhere else on my website or in any of those other places where I typically would have my opt-ins. Remember that if you are trying to increase this engagement with your audience and you want to be creating more engaging content, you have to be tracking this information. These are things that in order to see if you are being successful, you're going to have to track it and have some type of way that you are either saying, yep, I got this thing done, or great, this person was able to reach out to me and they got this free thing. Make it easy for yourself. Don't make it more complicated than it needs to be. It could simply be a tally sheet or a check-in every month to see where you're at with your goal. As you can see, there are so many ways that you can figure out if your podcast is engaging, but it's probably not any of the ways that you thought it was. If you have your own podcasting questions, I would love it if you sent me a DM on Instagram. You can find me at Successful Podcasting Unlocked or successfulpodcastingunlocked.com to submit your question as well. Until next time, happy podcasting.